Welcome back to another video, and in today's video I will be starting up the Cessna 152 from a checklist I have beside me here. And we have our checklist beside me, so I will be running through all of the procedures from pre-start to taxiing and all the way up to takeoff and then landings and then shutdown. So let's get this started. So the first thing we do here is our pre-start is we check the exterior of our aircraft to make sure that nothing is wrong with it and that everything's safe around the aircraft that we can fly with. We don't need to do that in the simulator here, but we can do that. So the first thing that we do though when we get in the plane in real life is you turn on your master, turn on your beacon, and then bring your flaps all the way down. One sec, let me turn the radios off because you do not turn these. There we go. Because you do not have these on when you're in real life. Anyway, so when we're in the plane, then master goes on. There we go. We can release our parking brake. We bring our flaps down, and then we will have our fuel valve on. That will always be on, but then we'll hop out of the plane, and then we'll check certain things around the plane, like we will check to make sure all of the bolts and screws are in place, there's no rivets along the body, no bird's nests in the engine, etc. No nicks or ticks along the propeller, and make sure that like our trim tab's nice and good to go. Same with all of our other parts of the aircraft. I like to keep my video short, so we're just gonna go back in the plane and say that we've finished our external check. So the next thing we'll do is we'll make sure that our flight controls are free and are free first of all. So if we bring our yokes back here, if I pull back on my yoke, nothing's obstructing it, and if I push in, nothing's obstructing it. All the way to the right and all the way to the left, back and front, nothing is obstructing it. Then we can also look back at our horizontal stabilizer and make sure that nothing is messing up with that. We can also check on the back here. I don't know, that's kind of weird. Oh, never mind. I found out the problem. So if we go back, there we go. We can check that our ailerons are working. There we go. We are working. And then we will check our rudder to make sure that our rudder is working. So if actually we should do this back in the plane like you would in real life. So there we are. Our rudders are working. Our rudder is working properly. So now, oh, you can see Mount Rainier in the background. I believe that is. That is very nice. So the next thing we'll do here is we will set our trim for takeoff, which I assume is already on takeoff mode. Yeah, there it is. Already set for takeoff, so we don't have to worry about that. And now we have to make sure our avionics are off, but they're already off. So next thing we'll do here is we will turn on our fuel valve. So there we go. It's already on, and we can prime the engine there. So usually in the winter time, you'd give it 2 primes if the airplane hasn't been flown in around a day or so. But in the summertime, you would just need to prime it once. So also guys, do not take this video into real life. This is not for real life purposes. This is just for having some fun and educating you for the simulator. Anyway, back to the video. So I'll just get my knee pad over here. So now we will need to record down our Hobbs times So I don't know if we have, oh yeah we do, okay, right there. So this plane is at, yeah, we are at 0.5 of an hour, not even, we're not even at, okay, so because it's in the sim, we can just write down, let's just write down 0, 0, 5, 0.5, and yeah, there we go. Okay, so 0, so 0.5 basically. Anyway, that is one thing about the sim that is kind of a bit not realistic there. They could put down some numbers, like depending on how many hours you've flown in the plane, they could put that down on the hours it's been flown right there, which would probably make it a bit more realistic. But anyway, so we have a Boeing going in the distance there. I don't think it's coming into our airport beside us here, but if it is, that would be cool. I think it's going to Seattle there, or it actually might be landing here. I don't know if this airport is regional, not regional, but I don't know if this airport is. Yeah, it's a county airport, so I believe that plane is going to Seattle. Anyway, so we've recorded our Hobbs times, etc. We've done our pre-start. Now we'll start the engine. So our carb heat, our carb heat is in. It's in cold. And now we'll have our throttle. And one thing my flight center does, just let me check it, all the way in, all the way out, and then a 1/4 inch of the way. So about your point your finger in all the way. Then what we'll do is make sure that our mixture is rich, so all the way in, 100%. So mixture rich, which is all the way in. And now we need to put our toes, and there we go. Brakes are set. If you don't have any rudder pedals with brakes on them, whatever key you have assigned to your keyboard or yoke or etc., you could use that. Now we have to prime, which I already did, so we don't need to worry about that, but you would prime because I'm going fast. Next thing we do here, turn our master switch. Well, it's already on. Following this checklist is not the same as mine that I fly with, so I'm going to go off with a bit of what I do and a bit of what this checklist says. So next thing we'll do here is our beacon's already on there, and then so we need to call out. So then what you would do is you'd open up your window, and then you'd yell clear prop, just like that, and then you'd crank your engine here, and then from off all the way to start. So if we do that here, there we go, we've heard the engine, and then turn it back to both. If you're in a real airplane, it would just go back to both, but if you have a honeycomb yoke like me, you'd have to turn it back to both. Anyway, so next thing we do here, after our engine start, we make sure that our throttle here is at 1,000 RPM. There we go, or just around 1,000. A little bit under and a little bit over is okay. So we need to check our oil pressure and oil temperature is in the green, or close to the green here. That's okay there because we haven't gone all the way under, or we aren't totally over. That is probably a bug there too, but that's alright. We also need to make sure that our fuel quantities are high. So right now we're at about 50% fuel, but we don't need that much fuel for today because we're just going to do a quick pattern. So next thing we'll do here is turn on our avionics. So now our avionics are set. You can see that right here has been set, so our altitude indicator is now level. Same with our altitude and etc. It may not be set though. Neither is our heading. So then what we do after our engine start. Next is we turn on our navigation lights and bring our flaps back to 0 from our external check or our walk around. So then we need to go to our radio and we need to turn these on. There we go. All the way on there. And then we need to, well, because we're in the sim here, we could just go to our ATC and tune to the ATIS, but we will just do it on here. So I do need to know the frequency. So I believe the frequency is 128. Okay, let's check right here. So 128.650. So right here on our standby frequency, I go to 128, which is that big knob there, and then the smaller knob here, 650, so I bring it down. 650, there we go. So then we just click the swap, because it swaps the standby and the in-use frequency. There we go.
1700 Zulu. Line 253 at tree. Visibility, 9er. Sky condition, clear. Temperature, 14. Dew point, 1 tree. Altimeter, 29.902. Visual runway tree 4 right and visual runway tree 4 left in use. Landing and departing runway tree 4 right and runway tree 4 left. VFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact you have Quebec.
So, okay, so it's just going to keep continuing there. So if you have a knee board or a piece of paper, what you could write down the altimeter and dew point and then wind. And then once you have those, then we should turn back to ground there. And we will change our altimeter here. So to do that, on the simulator, you could just press B, I think it is, but that already said it. But because we want to be more realistic, we can just we can do it here. But I want my videos to go fast, so basically what you would do is you turn the knob either left or right, and then it would change it to becoming. So you go to your altitude heading there. So ours here at the altitude we're at is 29.992. So our 29.92. So you take your little knob here and then you'd rotate it until you get to your designated setting. Okay, so that's enough about our pre-start and after engine start. So let's get this going faster. So the next thing we'll do here, let me just get my kneeboard and put it on so I don't have to fiddle with this. Okay, so now that we've done our after engine start, now we'll go to run up. So something that we'll say is when we're taxiing to run up, which is a hold short line by the runway there. Anyway, so what we'll do here is we would usually say like pain traffic, taxi to runway. What runway is this here? Let's see. Right now I'm just reading off my map here. Okay, so then I'd say so right now we're Alpha Sierra X-Ray Golf Sierra, and then I'd say that's our call sign. Taxi to runway, let's see, what are we at here? Taxi to runway, I believe it is 9, runway 9 right, or runway 9 left. Actually no, it's runway 9 right, I believe. Let me just read off of here. Yeah, so we have runway 16 right, which is what we'll be taxiing to. So this is not actually a airport I fly out of. I fly out of in Ontario, actually. Southwestern Ontario is where I am. Anyway, near Toronto. So, I'm not too familiar with this airport. So basically now, we would say taxi to the hold short. So then, yeah, so 34 left. So that other airplane just got cleared to hold short. So then I'd say remain in pattern. So then I'd
Cessna Alpha
ask
Sierra
them to
X-ray Golf
taxi.
Sierra with Romeo request taxi to the active touch and go.
There we go.
Cessna
So
Alpha
then,
Sierra X-ray Golf Sierra taxi to and hold short of runway 34 left by taxiway
then
Kilo 7 Alpha 8 Alpha
there
Alpha
we go.
10.
So then we bring up our RPM here, our speed, and we would taxi.
Taxiing hold short runway 34 left by taxiway Charlie Delta Alpha.
So now we would taxi to runway 3 left here, or runway 16 right, I believe, depending on which way you're headed. So now what we'll do is we can do our brakes check. So you put your feet on the brakes and then check that the ball's rolling down there. So now that we've done that, we can come to our hold short line here. There we go. And if you look at a windsock, I don't think there are any windsocks in our area. No, they're not. But if there was, we could see which way the wind's heading, because the next thing we do is you would turn. So say, let's just say that our wind today is coming from east. So if wind's coming from east, actually that's not really a good example, because then you don't really know. So actually, let's say our wind is coming from south. South is good. So if our wind's coming from south, then we'd bring our RPM up, and then we would turn, and using our brakes, because that gives you a sharper turn, to the heading of south. So we are almost there, and there we go. We have hit south. So then what you do is then you'd bring your throttle up to 1700 RPM.
X-ray Golf Sierra, did you copy?
There we go. Oh, I have to acknowledge. There we go.
Taxiing hold short runway 34 left by a taxiway
Okay,
Kilo 7
so
Alpha 8 Alpha Alpha
now that we have
Cessna X-ray Golf Sierra.
gotten to our 1700 RPM, then what we do is now we're in our run up. So we've headed our nose into the wind. We can turn our parking brake on, but we're not going to, because parking brakes develop. Parking brakes. I mean, putting your legs on the brakes develops stronger legs. But because we're just going to do this. So now that we have our feet on the brakes, and we will check our fuel. So we already did that, but our fuel's full. And check that our elevator trim. There we go. Takeoff. And now we'll check our magnetos. So our magnetos right now are at both. So if you look over at our RPM gauge here, when I click or move the magnetos from both, I move them back to left and then to right. Left, back to both, and then all the way to right and back to both. And you should see a drop of RPM. There we go. And we have seen our drop there. So there's a bit of a bug there, because when I turned my magnetos from left to right, it did drop, but that's alright. Anyway, now we will, there we go, and then carb, there we go, all the way in. So carb's in all the way, and cold. So okay, so now what we'll do here is we would say Cessna Alpha Sierra X-ray Golf Sierra, taxiing from hold short to runway 34 left, I believe this is, and then we'd say for departure into the pattern, just staying in the pattern. So now, then we'd say we're on the roll. So we check that our oil temperature and pressure is in the green, and that our fuel quantity is at full. Then we bring our throttle all the way in. We do not require flaps for any takeoffs today. And there we go. We might need to use a bit of a right rudder or left rudder to keep us on the center line. And we have already reached our 50 knot airspeed
Cessna X-ray Golf
minimum.
Sierra ATC services terminated.
So they said that to me. I'm not familiar with this airport, but that happened because I did not respond back to their air traffic control calls or to their I just didn't do things properly, but that's okay. I'm not familiar with this airport, so I do not really know where I'd be going, but that's alright. So now that we've taxied, now that we have taken off here, then we didn't need to record our takeoff time. So if we went to our Hobbs times, our takeoff time was, where did my pencil go? There it is. My takeoff time was 0.006. So there we are. That was my takeoff time. And once we've recorded our takeoff time there, then we would have to, once we have reached our certain altitude and designated heading, then we would have to turn and then continue into the pattern and then turn for our downwind. So anyway, we are at a very high airspeed here, but we do want to pitch for around 70 there. So when we hit 70 with our airspeed indicator there we are. So we're at about 70 there, and we want to climb. Where is my altitude? There it is. So we have reached our altitude there. We're turning left. So then what we do? We'd bring our power back just a bit to cruise. Cruise RPM is 22, around 2200 RPM. So there we are, and then we would turn like that and turn for our left. So we're around parallel to where the runways end.
Taxiing to general aviation parking using taxiway Lima Alpha 7 Alpha Alpha 5 cross runway 16 right Alpha 4 Alpha Alpha 1 Boeing 384.
There we are. So we have turned nice and parallel and level there. So now what we do is along parallel to the runway, so that is heading south or around south. So right about once we get to this water line right there, then we turn for our downwind. Then what we would do is a downwind check. So one thing I did forget to do and tell you guys is whichever runway you're taking off of, you want to take off into the wind because it creates more lift and it's easier on the airplane for taking off. After you do that, depending on which way you took off, then you do your downwind either this side of the runway or the other left side over there of the runway. So we can start turning for downwind now. So when you turn for downwind there, you'd want to do a downwind check. So check that your master's on, your primer's locked, so our primer is locked. You can check that in a real airplane by pulling on it and making sure that it doesn't come out. So one thing we will do also, so check that our beacon is on, nav light's on, and go check that our fuel valve is on. There we go. And check that our carb heat doesn't come out yet. I'm skipping a step. Check our carb heat's in and mixture's full rich. There we go. And everything's set like that. Now we do need to pull our power. Okay, our Radios there are getting a bit buggy. I'm not sure why, but that's okay. Anyway, now we just have to wait it out here. We should be going a bit closer to the runway there because we are a bit far out. So I will just turn here and just enjoy this nice scenery here. Okay, so now we are pretty close. So one thing we can do now, we need to take back our power here. There we go. Take our power out to about 20, about 2,000 RPM. Anyway, so we also need to make sure that our airspeed is around 60 or 70. So by doing that, we can just pitch up a bit, and that should slow down our airspeed. So just hold it up there until we slowly get further down. There we go. So we're at about 70 there, and we can check. We should go a bit closer to the airport actually, because then for the next part we know how to get there and what to do. So in the next part actually, we need to make sure that we can see when we look at the landing, sorry, the runway number. We're around 45-degree angle towards that, or to that. So if we look left, we can tell now that we are almost to the end of the runway over here. So our airspeed still is a bit high, so I can take back some more power there. So now that we've reached around our 45, well, when we reach 45-degree angle, we pull our power back to 1500, which I've already kind of done, which I shouldn't do. So 1500 RPM is right there. So we have about reached to our landing spot. There we are. So we have reached around 45-degree angle. So we'd bring our power back to 1500 RPM. There we go. And we'd pitch up to slow down our airspeed to 70 knots or 60 knots. 70 is probably better, so then you don't stall out. And we will bring our 10 degrees of flaps. Or there's our 10 degrees-ish. Well, there's our 10 degrees there. And then we'd start turning. Okay, our airspeed is, we need to bring up our RPM there because we were at 1000 instead of 15. There we are. Just then we don't stall out there. Then we turn for base. So as we're turning for base there, we are on pretty short base there, and this is probably going to be a short final because we are pretty close to the runway. So we bring back our power there, and we bring our flap stages down around half. And make sure that airspeed's low. And now we're going to turn for final now because we are pretty short and we do need to lose a bit of altitude there. Now we can go full flaps. There we go. We are pretty high, so we do need to go down just a bit. Okay, there we go. So now here comes a tricky part of flying a plane, which is landing. So for landing, we would say on our radios, Cessna, Alpha Sierra, X-Ray Golf Sierra on final, and then turning for base, etc. But we do need to bring our RPM up just a bit. There we are. Okay, so we're pretty high still, but once you reach around the runway markers, then you'd bring your throttle to idle, just about now. There we go, idle. And we are not going to hit the runway markers, but that's alright. We are still a bit high. So then,
Position caution other traffic.
there we go. Then we would flare, just like that. There we go.
Hold position Boeing
There we are. And have a nice smooth landing. It definitely was not a kiss landing, but it wasn't the hardest landing in the world. So now that we are here, then we would want to bring our flaps all the way up and add a little bit of speed there. Oh, we did forget to bring out our carb heat, which is something that was a mistake of mine. And then that was a bit of a mistake of mine. But anyway, then we'd stop at the hold short line and then do our radio check, radio calls. And also what we would do is then we would, once we're at the hold short line here, then we would be clear of our runway and we'd say Cessna Alpha Sierra X-Ray Golf Sierra, clear of all active runways. We are not near a parking spot, so I'll just taxi out to the side of the taxiway over here and shut down our airplane. Okay, so there we are. So we've reached the side of our runway, taxiway, here. There we are. And now what we'll do is we're clear of all active runways, and then we're clear of our taxiway, and then we will connect our plane here to our ground frequent. Okay. Oh, our radio's off for some reason. Turn that off. Same with this one. Something's glitching there. That's alright. But basically what you would do is yeah, so it isn't working. That is odd. There we go, standby. So, this plane is a bit newer than what I fly in real life, but that's okay. So what I'll do here now, then, once we're clear of everything, and then we've set our transponder to standby there, from setting it back from altitude, there we go. Now it's on standby. Now, our trim is back nice and set, and then we'll do our shutdown. So our avionics can go off and turn off our radio there too. It is glitching, which is kind of funny. that hasn't happened to me yet. That's okay. And just turn it off. There we go. Now, what? Oh, is that my? Okay, that is my magnetos that are. Okay, so now what we will do is this is a kind of a funny flight today. It wasn't perfect, but that's alright. Hope you guys learned something for in your sim. So anyway, so shutdown check. So we will bring our power to idle there, which I have already done. Magnetos, there we go, off, and then we'd pull our key out, and then we will cut off our engine there. So then we go mixture out there, which cuts off your engine, which isn't a bad thing. Just don't do it in the middle of your flight when you're flying in up in the air, because that will cut off your engine supply fuel from the fuel tank. So then, there we go. Then we pull out our ignition, or our key there. We'd pull it out. Then we'd turn our master off and turn our beacon off and our. So yeah, that happens. But if actually we should turn that back on. Okay. Oh, we can still continue. All right. So once everything is turned off, you'd want to turn off your lights too. Then you just go over and you'd record your Hobbs times over there. Then you would get out of the plane, walk back into your flight center, or if it's your own plane or something like that, then you just walk out and you're done. So that is how to start from cold and dark all the way to shutdown. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. I know this video is pretty long, but I tried to keep it as short as I can. See you guys in the next one.